Okay, this is Critical Discussions 23, and today we're talking about a lot of events that happened in June, mainly the Kakhovka Dam, basically terrorist act that Russia committed. And then we're obviously talking about Wagner Group mutiny, and about a few other terrorist acts that Russia have committed just very recently. So let's just start with Kakhovka Dam explosions, and what I think by now is pretty well known is that Kakhovka Dam was actually mined inside the turbine hole, basically by Russians. Russians control that whole sort of side of the dam, and they've been putting the explosives there for like a very long time ago, basically. And intelligence of the Ukrainian side warned about it long time ago. So that's a pretty well-known fact. Then, just so we're clear, and I've mentioned this on Twitter a long time ago, but I think more people need to know that, because I don't think like a lot of people are aware about this. But just before, like few days before the explosion, or let's just say a few days before the dam's destruction, on the official governmental website of Russian Federation, where they put their actual laws, this is it. This is the law at question. They've put out this law on 31st of May, so just a week basically before the explosion, before the destruction, let's put it that way for now. They put this document here that basically states that up until 1st of September 2024, you don't have to do any, like, first of all, no laws about an industrial safety of kind of dangerous objects, dangerous sort of facilities are applied on the territory of occupied, on an occupied territory, basically. And what's more interesting, they've specifically mentioned hydrotechnical construction facilities, that also the Russian law about the safety of the hydrotechnical constructions also does not apply. What's more interesting is that they've stated this is official Russian law. They still didn't remove it. They don't hide it. They're literally putting it out there for the whole world to see, as long as you can translate Russian language, basically. That before 1st of January 2028, technical investigations of any sort of any my English is fucking rusty, holy shit. Okay, sorry. So on Russian website, like a week prior, before the Kakhovka Dam was destroyed, they've put a document that before 1st of January 2028, technical investigations of any accidents on like dangerous industrial objects and accidents on hydrotechnical facilities, constructions, during sort of the wartime, whatever actions, diversions and terrorist acts will not be investigated. So they're saying that if something would have happened to a facility like a dam that we are controlling, we will not be investigating it before 2028. And then, in Russian there is a saying that basically sort of translates like let's long wait enough. Let's wait long enough and see if maybe someone just dies and you don't need to fucking do anything. Sort of in this sort of with this meaning. They're literally putting a statement a week before the destruction of dam that they will not be investigating and that the laws about the safety of this object that they are in control of do not apply for that object. Kakhovka Dam in this particular regard. So if some brain dead fucking Putin dick rider or whatever in like USA, because there are a lot of them out there, conspiracy fucking theorists or whatever out there will be telling me that it's not Russia who's responsible for this, or will be telling you they're fucking brain dead, because Russia literally puts a fucking law that says that if something were to happen, we're not responsible for any of that. How more blatant and obvious can you be? And I'll tell you, you cannot be more blatant and obvious. So that's the start, right? That's the start of our sort of little talk today. Now then, the consequences, obviously. First of all, a lot of territories were flooded. A lot of territories controlled by both Russia and Ukraine were flooded. Russia does not care about any people in the world whatsoever if it's not Kremlin's mafia. I want you to understand this super clearly. Russia was controlling basically these positions on the left side of the river, and there were Russian soldiers there, and they didn't know that this explosion will happen, this diversion will happen, because Russia doesn't care. Russia doesn't care about their own citizens. Russia doesn't care about Ukrainian people. Russia does not care on a giant level, like on a big scale. They don't give a fuck. Unless it is about Putin, unless it is like about his very like immediate surrounding. Nothing else matters. I want you to understand this, and it will be seen very, very clearly when we talk later about this Prigozhin's mutiny. What happened to Putin? What he did? The first thing I'm gonna tell you. So obviously, a huge fucking ecological disaster, huge fucking human disaster in terms of displacing so many people, so many lives again ruined. It's like Russia is a terrorist state. I think it would be amazing if fucking United Nations finally take the fucking head out of their asses and actually on the international scale admit that Russia is a terrorist state, kick them out of United Nations, and then start dealing with them as a terrorist state, because this is who they are right now. Like, it's beyond reprehensible at this point. It's like it was beyond reprehensible when they fucking annexed Crimea. Now it's like now it's just another level, and I absolutely wouldn't be at this point surprised if they actually would fucking detonate Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever. So, a few things to note. I'm pretty sure, like, if somebody was following this story, you've probably heard a lot how the Kakhovka Dam sort of basically, either with the help of some detonation or without the help of any detonation, was destroyed. Because on the side of Russians, so first of all, we need to understand the construction of the dam and how it operates. It has these gates that can be opened by cranes. You can see, like, on the pictures, if you're listening this, there are pictures on YouTube version. There are two cranes that can open the gates. And when Ukrainians were in control of this dam, they were opening the gates sort of periodically, different gates. Because what can happen if you open only one gate and let it run all the time, it can erode the ground underneath where it's actually flooding the water, and that can lead to sort of unstable base of that particular portion of that particular section of the dam, and that can obviously lead to a catastrophic failure. So it doesn't matter if it doesn't really matter if Russians detonated something in the like machinery hall or in the base surf of the dam, even though I think people right now are pretty already convinced that they have detonated something. It doesn't really matter because they were in control, and if you are in control of such massive construction that has basically it has so much dangers involved with like operating this facility, right? You either like it is right now on a nuclear station, because on Zaporizhia nuclear power plant there are Russians in control, but Ukrainians are operating it. Luckily, obviously, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of like torture and everything happening, and I think I've heard recently that they've been forced to sign a contract, forced to sign a contract basically with Rosatom, with Russian nuclear sort of main overseer, I guess you could say, like operator. But that's besides the point, right? So on Kakhovka dam, that didn't happen. Russians were in control. They didn't fucking know what they're doing whatsoever, because satellites from sort of different time showed that when Ukrainians had to retreat basically from the dam, Russians have opened sort of right side, basically closer to them, gates, and left the cranes there running all the time. They didn't move the cranes, so the cranes basically lifted the gates to open and close them. They didn't basically move them for, I don't know how much it was. It probably was like more than like 3 months, definitely more than 3 months. I'm pretty sure. And so that could have eroded sort of the soil underneath and started sort of the cascade effect that later would collapse everything. However, and this is why people have pointed out that the gates are here, obviously, that could have started the destruction of the dam. But also there are kind of gaps at the machine hall, basically where generators are. And so it is presumed that right now that there were it is kind of a known fact that there were explosives there. And seemingly, when Russia was retreating also from that area, or at least like sort of trying to retreat maybe a little bit more, they probably just blew up. And there were like recordings, but with audio recordings, it's kind of easy to fake them, obviously. But I've listened myself to several recordings of, at least one recording, of sort of two communicating Russian, like either officers or soldiers, don't know. And one of them were admitting to, basically, were admitting for destruction of this dam. So, and also Russia, I'm pretty sure, blew up the when they were retreating and sort of moving to a third positions. They blew up the road on their side, and that again is clearly visible from the satellite imagery. And that also could have damaged. Basically the foundation of the dam itself. And I'm pretty sure that was like one of the points. Oh no, that wasn't one of the points. No, don't listen to me. That was actually, it was the Ukrainian side who blew it up. Don't listen to me about this. Long story short, again, it doesn't matter. Did someone actually blew up the machinery hall or anything like that? Russia was in control, and they should have been very careful with it. Instead, they're literally releasing a law that says, well, here's the translation: until January 1st, technical investigation of accidents at, well, hazardous, dangerous production facilities and accidents on hydraulic structures which occurred as a result of military action, sabotage, and terrorist attacks shall not be carried out. Literally a law. Russian governmental decree number 873. And I just showed you that it is still here, right there. You can download PDF, you can open HTML, it is right there. So then, actually, yeah, and the first thing the Russians did were lie, that Ukraine sort of attacked with HIMARSs and destroyed them or something like that, which is bonkers because um, previously, I forgot when it was already. Ukraine tried to actually um, try to use HIMARSs on certain bridges. I think even in Kakhovka Dam, but like on not on a dam, but like on a little bridge, sort of to the side of it. And well, it wasn't particularly successful. Even like I think they were able to hit not even about Kakhovka Dam, like various other bridges were hit by like HIMARSs or like smaller, like really well guided sort of missiles. They don't do that much damage. Yes, maybe like the cars will not be able to drive, but again, repair is relatively easy, and or not like relatively easy, but it is doable. But to destroy something like a dam, you would need a lot of HIMARSs, and there were no sort of reports that there were like literally like sort of explosions on the dam, because otherwise, how else would you be able to uh, attack it with something like a missile? It would be visible. Somebody would have seen something. There would be explosions because again, and people have phones nowadays, and so on and so forth. None of that happened basically. So yeah. Um, and actually, I lied. This is the explosions that were caused by Russians. Yeah, I remember. I don't know why I said it was Ukrainian side. That was the Russian side. Who actually blew it. So yeah, once again, Russia always lies. You need to remember that always, always. If something comes from either like propaganda sources or like from official statements of Kremlin, they always lie. And I will show you this again today. I will show you word by word that they always lie. And if you have any kind of memory, um, if you remember about the annexation of Crimea and about little green men, as they were called, Putin denied that it was Russia who have done it. He denied it for like years, and then in an interview in I think 2017, I don't remember who it was. It might have been like something like BBC or something to like a foreign, basically outlet. He said like, yeah, of course it was ours. It was our people. Of course it was, and he was laughing about it. I'm pretty sure I mentioned it in some like previous episode. I don't know if I've ever found it included, but like you can. I'm pretty sure you can like easily find it on YouTube. But the fucking piece of shit that he was laughing to the face of the earth, and yeah, just like this is Russia, and this is Russian leadership. Lie and deny always, up until like it's already super like late, or several years later, and then you can say like, yeah, it was us. What can you do to us? Because this is the mentality of gopnik. You need to understand what gopnik is, because Putin is literally fucking gopnik. Is it? I don't know, like maybe like something like a chav or whatever in like UK, something like that. Is your fucking guys in tracksuits and with this like a fucking attitude, like I'm gonna punch you in the face up until you can defend yourself, and then if you punch me in the face as well, then okay, maybe I'll retreat. If not, I'm gonna continue this. Something to this degree. You need to understand the mentality. And this is the mentality. Because everybody thinks that Russia has a nuclear weapon and they can use it, which they will never use it because they want to leave. This is a kleptocratic fucking pieces of garbage. They don't want to die. They want to steal and do some fucking atrocious shit. They don't want to die. They're not like some jihadists who are fucking, I don't know, want to die for an idea to meet an ally or whatever the fuck. This is not them. Putin and his surroundings are not them. They're building the fucking wealthiest, like I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Look up the Gelendzhik, Putin's palace. there was a whole giant investigation on Navalny YouTube channel. It's probably their most viewed video. That's a person who doesn't want to die, and so he will never use nuclear weapons, because nuclear weapons means total war with the rest of the world. And yeah, this is just horrific. This is just horrific what happened at Kakhovka. Yes. And this is again, if you're listening, there is a video version of this. And I'm showing right now a little preview that this particular area, and this is like machinery hall, this is what sort of kind of lead people to believe that most likely it was a controlled destruction. So it wasn't just the failure of the structure itself due to the negligence of the Russian side, although that probably was also playing a giant role. But it seems like they have used the explosions and actually destroyed the dam, because it's slightly far further removed from like a main sort of bridge area. And once again, Russia is controlling that whole area. So yeah, it is such a fucking devastating humanitarian catastrophe, quite literally, that I have no words really, because this was basically this is, yeah, I'm gonna show you obviously the pictures, right? That the whole city or cities, villages, everything flooded. And there are many villages out there. Everything is flooded. It is, yeah, it is just, it's a travesty. It is absolute travesty. And you can see the dam right there, and obviously all the areas here totally flooded. And by the way, these areas, I'm pretty sure, were sort of under Russian control. So like I'm saying again, they don't give a fuck about their own people. They don't give a fuck about people who they claim to be liberated by Russia. They don't give a fuck. They don't. Simple as that. And yeah, and obviously the whole sort of city is kind of on a lower, in a, not pit, but sort of at least on a level plane with the dam, and everything here, you can see that everything is totally flooded. You can't walk there. You need to quite literally use a boat. And what's even more despicable is that there have been many reports, and I think maybe I'll talk about it in another video. Maybe you've seen it yourself or heard about that when Ukrainian volunteers try to evacuate their own people out of these flooded areas, Russia were literally shoot at them with machine guns and everything, and also dropped from drones bombs on them, on volunteers and on civilians who were trying to escape the flooded areas that were caused by Russia, either negligence or direct explosion. I want you to hear it and understand this. Russia destroyed the dam. People were trying to evacuate. Civilians, not military personnel, nothing like that. And Russia was denying those people safety, or at least attempt to escape to safety, by literally firing at them. If that's not a fucking terrorist state, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. You can see that, many streets are absolutely lost, and yeah, it's there is no good word to describe it besides the fact that the fact that it's a terrorist state, and I sincerely hope that everyone responsible for this, everyone, will face life sentences. Not death, life sentences. So you have enough time to realize and understand what in the fuck you have done. And without parole, without even ability to fucking question that decision. Life sentences for all of them. for all the fucking elites, top fucking elites in the air quotes of Russia, for all the fucking Russian mafia, for all those pieces of shit who actually executed those criminal fucking orders on the ground. And with the widespread of OSINT, of the open source intelligence, they will be found. They will be found exactly like those despicable pieces of shit who destroyed that house in not building, apartment building, like a section of apartment building in Dnipro, and killed like fucking 80 people or something. Yeah, and you can see obviously dried up river and where the waters were, and it's at least like 2-3 meters down, and it was the photos are quite old even by now, maybe even like whole 5 meters, who knows. Which again, like, it's gonna be a humanitarian catastrophe, because now there are images of completely dried up reservoir, right? This whole area with so much water in it, it's now dried up totally. So yeah, it's gonna have huge ecological effects. That this is eco-terrorism, and I'm pretty sure I've heard that EU have opened the case about eco-terrorism, considering the destruction of this dam. I hope that it's gonna go well, and Russia will be prosecuted for it. But yeah, this is to restore this whole area to where it was before. It's gonna take like decades, probably years for sure, and years like obviously after the end of the war, which we don't know when the war will end. But yeah, this is a war. This is not even a war crime. This is a crime against humanity. This is an ecological terrorism. This is a terrorism in just a general sense, because this is something that definitely affects just civilian population. And by the way, just for the context, when it happened is when Ukraine basically, kind of announced their counteroffensive operation, that it's kind of started, it's ongoing, and I have no doubt whatsoever. I have I have 10% of doubt, but besides that, no doubt whatsoever that Russia saw it as an opportunity to distract Ukrainians from counteroffensive operation, because now they need to evacuate people. Now they need to deal with this catastrophe, and in this case, they, at least Russia, probably thought that they will be distracted enough to at least slow down the counteroffensive. I guess to a degree it worked, but again, let's just think about it, right? Like, to stop counteroffensive operation, not even in this area, because in this area I'm pretty sure Ukrainians were not doing any maneuvers, at least not yet. Russia is alright with literally creating an ecological fucking catastrophe. They don't give a fuck to that degree. People just need to understand that. So yeah, I will include a few articles if you want to read about it. Obviously, I'm pretty sure it's a little bit old news, which is, June was pretty fucking intense month. But I will definitely include to a literal law that says, in case some fucking catastrophe, accident, whatever, we're not going to be investigating, and no rules about safety will apply to facilities that we actually control, such as Kakhovka Dam. So yeah. It's despicable. I have no words. Like, I thought I've seen most of most of it already during this war. Apparently not. Apparently there is no line that Russia wouldn't cross. That's why I'm saying, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they literally detonate the fucking nuclear power plant. I wouldn't be surprised in a fucking slightest at this point. All right. Okay, so let's talk now about the Prigozhin's mutiny. I'm pretty sure you've heard about it. It's still in the news right now because it happened just like less than a few days ago. How it started, right? People don't understand, like, oh, Prigozhin, blah, 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 why he's done it. This is why he's done it. And this is what like Putin just admitted, and I will show you once again that um, Wagner Group was never private military company. It was never a private military company. This is a terrorist organization. You can call it maybe organized military. Basically, it is an arm and was always an arm of Russian army that they've used to kind of use like what's it called, like a plausible deniability, that oh, this is not ours. This is exactly the same story I told you before. This is exactly the same story as they've used with annexation of Crimea. Oh, this is not ours. This is some green man. Oh, this is not ours. This is Wagner Group. And this group, Wagner Group, not only was paid $1 billion per year, which Putin himself admitted just yesterday, and I'll show you this again today. But they've used to commit all sorts of crimes, atrocities, all sorts of absolute despicable and heinous shit under the pretext that Russia can always say, this is not ours, this is not our group, this is not us, this is not our army. We don't know who they are. They are, mercenaries who are kind of doing it out of their own volition. We can't do anything with them, deal with them yourself. And yesterday he admitted that no, it was always our guy, so to speak, which is kind of interesting that he admitted this so quickly while nobody really pressured him to do so, and yet he did. So it just shows the mental capacity of that individual. But that's another point. So Prigozhin, think about it. You are a guy, this cunt, who is a criminal who spent like 10 years in jail or something like that. I've made a video about him. Check out YouTube channel. Probably will be, if you just search on in YouTube channel named Prigozhin, it will be there. He was quite literally chef, the person who cooks for Putin. He was getting a shit ton of money via that avenue. Then he created, well, not he created, but he kind of joined Wagner Group because he's not an actual creator of Wagner Group. Wagner Group creator is actually fucking Utkin. I forgot Utkin, whatever. But if you see who Utkin is, you're gonna be very not surprised that a piece of shit like that created like look at this person with literally swastikas all over him. Not particularly surprising, sort of. Not particularly surprising, right? So this was actually creator of Wagner Group, this piece of shit, right? So then, you as a Prigozhin, I guess like later it's basically your shit, right? I don't know what that Utkin did was doing, but this is your shit. You know Putin, you have the contract for $1 billion, maybe less so before the war, but still you have multi-$100 million contracts, right? You have your own private army. You have tanks, you have sort of armored personnel carriers, you have even fucking like helicopters. That's not a private military company. So, this we need to understand. This is a military group. This is a terrorist organization, whatever you want to call it. But this is not a private military company. So you have that. And then Russian Ministry of Defense orders you to sign a contract with them, to essentially be dependent on them and be subordinate to them. You, as a guy with $1 billion and your small army of at least like 25,000 people, what do you think you're gonna do? Well, you don't want to sign it, obviously, because you are doing your own shit. You have access to, or you had access to, actual prisoners that you could recruit from prisons and send to war, send as into meat grinder onto the front lines in Bakhmut. That's what they've been doing there for like 8 months. Literally sending, I don't want to say hundreds of, but at least like thousands of people, literally just to die, with no purpose whatsoever, no tactics or anything. Just like more meat will solve the problem. Eventually, it kind of solved the problem, but by the time there's nothing left of Bakhmut, so like who cares about that fucking city? So again, some cunt called Sergei Shoigu, who is a minister of defense in Russia, who has never served in army, let's start with that, ordered all volunteered units, as they call, to sign a contract by July 1st. So July 1st is your cut-off date as a Prigozhin. And then Putin comes out and says, yeah, you need to sign it. What does Prigozhin think? Prigozhin think, fuck that shit. What's interesting is that apparently this cunt is also either stupid or actually, well, cares. But as it turned out, yeah, he's not stupid. He just cares about his own fucking head more than anything else in this world. It's interesting that he actually captured Rostov-na-Donu and was going sort of to Voronezh and then to Moscow. Nobody really did anything to stop him. In fact, he was sitting and talking. So I'm pretty sure, like, as they were entering the city or things like that, there were no sort of defense from either police or whatever fucking army Russia has there stationed. Nothing of that nature. So they captured basically the main areas of Rostov. Prigozhin himself was sitting basically and talking to like a few generals there, I'm pretty sure, or at least like higher officers. And like there are pictures. I just wanted to find the picture, but apparently can't. And yeah, it's only like when they went with their convoy to Moscow that actually Moscow sent a few like helicopters and I think like a plane or whatever, and even I'm pretty sure it was like a plane or a helicopter. Some pilots basically refused to drop bombs on that convoy, on the cars basically, and on Prigozhin basically, which is also interesting and shows that even amongst like army people, even amongst basically the military personnel, there are people who would rather support a criminal. I mean, who would rather support one criminal versus another criminal? Yeah, let's put it that way. Yeah, so that's very interesting, actually. That's really fucking interesting, I have to say. But yeah. So that's that. And he called off the mutiny, presumably because sort of maybe like, I think he has like a daughter or something. Basically, presumably because some of the family members might have been threatened. He didn't think about securing their sort of safety, and he did it once again because he thought he might. And by the way, he went to Rostov first because he had news that Shoigu, which is the Minister of Defense, was in Rostov. So he wanted kind of, I guess, either like capture them or, I mean, I don't know. I'd like either capture them or maybe, I don't even know, like, or talk to them, fucking kill them. I don't fucking know what the plan was. But what's interesting is that, like I'm saying, there were not a lot of pushback. And so if he wanted, he probably could have actually captured Moscow, not Kremlin, but probably like an Ostankino, like a television, main television sort of center, and started to kind of, or like a parliament, things like that. Pretty sure he could have done it because, again, you have tanks, you have like a heavy armored vehicles. And yes, in Moscow, there are a lot of what's called Rosgvardia, which is just a fucking kind of personnel sort of in all those like anti-riot uniform, which is good to beat up peaceful protesters with flowers, but not particularly great when you're facing a fucking tank. And it's just interesting that he turned out to be just a fucking stupid piece of fucking shit chicken. That he literally could have created like a full-blown coup in Russia, and yet he called it off. And now his whole Wagner Group is completely sort of disbanded. He will not get his $1 billion fucking financing or anything like that. And so he turned out to be just a fucking pussy, which is from the guy who spoke all the time so brazenly and so like blatantly and so like, oh, fuck this, fuck that. He turned out to be, quite a fucking piece of shit pussy, which is pretty interesting. Which is pretty fucking interesting. And now, apparently, this piece of shit and at least some of his mercenaries are gonna be stationed in Belarus. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This is exactly what our country needed now. Not only we have a fucking dictator with a fucking grip on everyone, and I will show you the absolutely despicable sentences that people are getting here in this country. Now we have fucking mercenaries, despicable pieces of shit like terrorists on our who are welcomed on our territory. That is insanity. That is true insanity. And I am here in Belarus talking to you about all of these things. That's why I don't use my face. That's why I'm trying to stay sort of as under the radar as I can, because this is quite literally the fucking matter of danger to life. To me, if I would use my own face and actually tell you about all of these developments, so to speak. I'm going to continue in just 1 second. Okay, so let's continue. So again, just so we reiterate and understand why this mutiny happened, because you're a guy with private army, you are a guy with at least 20,000 people who you directly in control of, who listen to you. You have shit ton of money. Again, you have fucking helicopters and tanks and armored vehicles, like, and then some cunt who you absolutely disrespect, who starved you, well, by your admission, but who knows, like, if it's actually happened, exactly how Prigozhin says, he starved with like ammunition when they were on the front lines. That Russian Ministry of Defense, which is just such a fucking term that I can, like, Ministry of War, basically. Let's call it. Let's call it for what it is. Ministry of War didn't supply you with enough sort of ammunition, with enough sort of provision, with enough stuff, basically. You despise these pieces of shit. You despise Shoigu. You despise whoever the fuck else there in higher ups at Russia's army. And then you have a deadline in about a week, because the mutiny happened like on 23rd, 24th, and July 1st is your cutoff point. And now you have an idea that maybe Shoigu, which is the person who is responsible for your kind of a shitty situation, is in Rostov, and you are trying to basically storm Rostov, capture him, and I don't know, torture, kill, force him to kind of remove that kind of a law that would force you, Prigozhin, to sign with Ministry of Russian War. That thing didn't work, because Shoigu, first things first, when he heard about that Prigozhin and Prigozhin's mercenaries are moving to Rostov, he flew. First things, he just like heard just a whisper of things that might to come. He immediately, like that coyote in the fucking cartoon. I'm not here anymore. Which exactly the same thing, by the way, did Putin, which I'll show you in 1 second. Just so we understand the level of cowardness of the Russian elites, not elites, but like of the Russian mafia who captured the country. Let's call it what it is. So then, what in the fuck Lukashenko is doing? What in the fuck? How the fuck this piece of shit is what kind of relationship does he have with this whole situation? What I think happened is that Putin did not, because Putin felt that Prigozhin's sort of attempted coup was basically like direct, some sort of like a spit in the face directly to Putin's face. He decided he's not, like, that's a betrayal, and he's not gonna fucking talk to this person anymore. And so I'm pretty sure what happened is that Putin called Lukashenko and said, you deal with Prigozhin, you offer him some safe haven wherever, and we're gonna, negotiate some deal with you, with Lukashenko. We're gonna give you some fucking bone, because you're a fucking our lapdog, and you know it, and we know it. And so if the regime in Russia falls now, you're gonna fall next. So deal with Prigozhin, we're gonna give you a bone. Which is exactly what happened. So Lukashenko somehow fucking negotiated with Prigozhin that Prigozhin would stop this whole procession to Moscow. And in return, he will get sort of guarantees of his safety by both Lukashenko and Putin. Two despicable, atrocious pieces of shit who always lie, who only always search for their own interests, who will always betray you, who will always turn back on you. And now you, as a Prigozhin, believe that these two people, this piece of shit and Putin, can guarantee your safety. I didn't understand how brain dead this cunt is, but I guess he is that brain dead. Because sure, right now he might be stationed somewhere in Belarus, and apparently Lukashenko said that we're gonna give you like a fucking old abandoned whatever, like military base or some shit like that. Somewhere in not far away from the sort of region where I actually live. Not only that I live in Belarus, which is fucking great already, but not even that fucking far off, apparently, from where this fucking cunts will be, which is fucking stellar. I mean, the whole Belarus, let's put it that way, is like from Minsk is 200 kilometers in one direction, other basically, right? Like, so it's either way not that sort of long drive by any means, but it's just so I'm fucking whatever. So Lukashenko confirmed arrival of Prigozhin in Belarus. So what does Lukashenko get from it? We understand that Prigozhin apparently get to keep some of the money, get to keep some of the men. He got to go at least to Belarus. Maybe he will fly to Africa from here. I don't know. What does Lukashenko get from it? Putin promised the cheapest gas in the world to Lukashenko after this whole fucking ordeal. Yeah. What does Lukashenko get? The cheapest gas. It's not like actually. I don't know actually. Like, do we import so much gas from? I know that like mostly it's been always about oil, because Lukashenko would do this crazy shit. He would negotiate like cheap basically contracts with Russia for crude oil, then use it on oil refineries in Belarus, and then sell it with a big sort of with a big margin to the West, to the countries in Europe, basically. And at some point in the relationship, something went wrong. That kind of a fucking little trick, basically, well, stopped working. Let's put it that way. So I'm actually not sure how much that would be in terms of money. I don't know, like really how I've never really bothered to investigate how much we import from Russia in terms of gas. I'm pretty sure probably would be a lot, because I don't think we actually we extract that much gas ourselves. I know we extract quite a lot of oil, but gas probably not so much. But yeah, but in any case, I don't think like we are such a gasified sort of country. Like I'm saying, it's more like a oil or something of that nature. In any case, yeah. So like I'm saying, what did fucking mustache dictator, fucking cockroach did get from it? He got lowest gas price in the world. Now then, I told you that, and I've stated this very kind of brazenly, that PMC Wagner was never PMC. It was organized military group. That's how you might call it. I would call it terrorist organization, because of all the atrocities they've committed in Ukraine and in Africa. Wagner received 1 billion in funding from Russian government, Putin confirms. According to Putin, from May 2022 to May 2023, Wagner received over, basically, 1 billion in funding directly from Russian authorities. He literally stated that in his yesterday or the day before, in his speech before military officers or whatever the fuck. So there's that. That's like literally like news from the mouse's horse. He admits that it like directly they've been sponsoring this terrorist organization directly. Now then, right? Apparently now the assets of Prigozhin, because he also had and has still, it's still in operation, network of trolls, which are absolutely, if you ever use Twitter, you will 100% have interacted with those accounts. Because I can tell you 100%, if there is a news posted by like some independent Russian speaking media in terms of shining the light on the war in Ukraine, so on and so forth, there will be, out of like 50 comments, there will be at least like 20, 30 with pro-Russian bots who will be saying like, oh, but Zelensky, oh, but Ukraine, oh, but West, but this, but that. And these are factory of trolls. Literally, there are places and sort of company where there would be sitting like 1,000 people in a room or whatever, few rooms, and just spreading misinformation online. Like, I kid you not, this is the job that people do, and this network of disinformation, misinformation, trolls, and all of that, Prigozhin created this, and now I'm assuming that thing, and I've heard the news already that the SERF, his company already searching for, or not his company searching, basically Russian government is searching already another owner for that company to take ownership. That's what I'm saying. Like, I didn't understand that Prigozhin actually is that brain dead, that he actually had all the aces, not even up his sleeve. Like, he showed the aces, and then he decided to fold. If we're using like a card terminology, poker terminology, right? He showed that he has aces. He even, doubled down. He put even more money, or even actually went all in, and then he folded. right when another side said that, showed that they had maybe 2 tens and I don't know, maybe 2 kings or something like that, and he had all the aces and he folded. I don't know. I am pretty sure now that again, if Prigozhin is able to live the next year, it's gonna be, I think, a success in his book. I doubt it, to be honest, because now something like GRU, some kind of a Russian sort of this secret service, now they can poison him basically. Exactly as they've been doing it across the whole world, exactly have been trying to kill Navalny and so on and so forth, and did successfully kill many other people. This is exactly the fate of Prigozhin right now. He had all the aces and he decided to fold, and that's his fate now. His fate now. I don't fucking cry for him, but I would want to see. I wanted to see a real coup in Russia because because that country needs to fall apart, it needs to crash, it needs to burn, it needs to get separated into at least 10 fucking different republics, separated republics, because as it stands right now, Russia is a threat to the whole world. It's a terrorist fucking country, and with pieces of shit at the head of it. So, is Wagner Group connected to Russian state or not? Putin responds. June 2019. Regarding private security companies, this is not the Russian state. January 2020. If there are Russian citizens there, they don't represent the interests of the Russian state and don't receive money from the Russian state. February 2022. About Wagner, Russian state has nothing to do with it. June 2023, support for the Wagner Group was fully provided by the state. This is from the Putin's mouth. Needed to say anything more? I don't think so. And apparently, at least like wherever the source is, Wall Street Journal has, that Prigozhin wanted to actually capture Shoigu and the head of general, what is like a general headquarters staff, fuck, I don't know, whatever, Gerasimov, it's like I'm saying, he had everything. He even had like an anti-aircraft systems, which is how he downed the several helicopters and a plane or a couple planes. And he did not do what he should have done. And now he's gonna die, which is, fuck him. Absolutely fuck him. All right. Once again, I'm going to include many links. As you could have seen, like a lot of them are in English, so it's not going to be a problem. You can actually read it. Some of them are in Russian, but a quick Google Translate, I'm pretty sure, will do a good job of actually providing all the information. But like I'm saying, I'm trying to include more and more sort of English language articles. It's just obviously the really good reporting about this conflict and about the internal sort of affairs and how it is all done, blah blah blah. It's usually it is written in Russian language, and only like bigger, kind of more important stories, I guess, are translated into English, because unfortunately, I guess there's just not enough stuff that that media outlets like Insider, like Medusa, or even like the Moscow Times, they don't have enough, I guess, resources to actually translate everything. And in any case, like I've said before, the sort of really great stuff is happening sort of on YouTube, and on YouTube basically it's going to be Michael Naki. It's going to be this particular sort of this particular person, and he's doing the videos about every day, or like mostly every day, and these kind of things are
490.
but you need to actually understand at least a little bit, not a little bit, Russian language, because I mean, yeah, you can use sort of subtitles. Can you use? Oh, there's no auto-translate. Okay. Yeah, you can kind of translate it.
День войны, свежие сводки.
You can kind of translate it. Ruslan Lviv, obviously CAT team. It's a well-known open source intelligent OSINT group. They're great. I suggest you to follow them. Once again, there's an English sort of version of their stuff, and this kind of they're kind of daily reports. They just take a break here and there on like a weekend or on some day. You can actually, if you don't mind reading subtitles, this is really great what these particular people are doing. I'm going to put a link to them into the description, because their analytics, their understanding, not only of the war, but of this internal conflicts and what's going on and how things can develop and will develop, they're super on point. They're really great. And so if you don't mind reading, kind of like I'm saying, translation, I highly suggest you to check them out. I'll put the links into description. All right. Now then, let's just quickly go through some news. Russia State Duma allows mobilized soldiers and contract servicemen to be exempt from criminal liability. So if you go to war, you commit atrocious crimes, you kill civilians, you rape women, girls in Ukraine, you do all sorts of garbage shit, don't care, don't matter. If you come back maybe even to home, I'm not sure about that. If you come back home and you kill someone, don't know. But yeah, that's here for you. Russia's new laws. And by the way, this particular person, Michael Naki, was joking that you should actually serve. If you are a soldier or officer or wherever in Ukraine right now, you are sick of this war, you want to go home, Putin just showed the way how to do it. You just go and try to create a coup or mutiny, because Prigozhin, by the way, I didn't say that, but Russia state opened an investigation into Prigozhin for sort of calls to mutiny, calls to rebellion, whatever, and then closed it. And so Michael Naki was joking that the best thing you will get is an exile into Belarus. and then you can live your life happily ever after, which is actually kind of true. Yeah, it's kind of a joke, but it's kind of another joke also, because literally, the guy downed, not he personally, but his group downed several planes, helicopters, so killed I think like 15 or so army soldiers, personnel. So not more really, but at least those people, yes, definitely. Try to attempt like a coup, try to capture like a general and the head of the headquarters, whatever. And yeah, he's facing exile. But yeah, like I'm saying, he's gonna be dead in a year span, top probably. But yeah. Anyway, so the other thing that I told you that I'm gonna talk about, Putin's presidential aircraft and Doomsday plane flew out of Moscow. This is exactly what I told you. Like, these are rats. These are pieces of shit, and they are chickens. Both Shoigu, like I've said, he's a minister of defense who has never served in army. I hate army because we have compulsory army in Belarus. They have, I'm pretty sure in Russia they have the same. So as soon as the guy turns 18 and up until like 28, and now in Russia will be like up until like 30 something, his life is in danger because he might, if he's not smart enough, he's gonna at some point face like the commission to go to army and presumably perhaps even go to army, and there's nothing good that comes out of it. That's why, a lot of guys are simply trying to avoid it. And then you get a fucking minister of defense who have never served in army. So he can't reform it, he doesn't care about it, which is all understandable. So anyway, exactly when this whole events were happening, and when Putin and when he's got the intelligence that Prigozhin is going on Moscow with like 20,000 people, and they might attempt like a literal sort of coup. Putin took off from Moscow and went to St. Petersburg. Also, it's just brilliant, right? Like, and Peskov was just like a spokesperson for Putin, denied that, but obviously, like, why else would a fucking this plane actually go anywhere? So yeah, that happened. Literally, the second he sniffed that his life might be in danger, what does he do? He flies away. Also, his other aircraft took over to into Tver region, right? Where Putin has his residence, Valdai residence, which I'll show you right here in a second. We're gonna get to that as well. It's all connected. It's all connected in this episode. Because yeah. So actually, you know what? Actually, let's actually tie this whole two things together. This is Valdai. This is Putin's. Well, this is not Putin's residency, but there is a Putin's residency there. It's partially closed. And also, yeah. This whole thing is closed. There is a residency, the house of Vladimir Putin, and there is a house of Alina Kabaeva, which was his lover, and apparently now, I don't fucking know, are they husband, wife? I don't give a fuck. It's just the fact that this is his residency. This whole area, which is basically like a national park, it is closed for public. So if previously it was open for public because it's beautiful places, whatever, blah blah blah. Now it's closed for public, and obviously you can see that there's a lot of water there, so it's kind of harder to traverse if there was somebody who'd want to capture or kill you or do any harm to you, it's kind of a good place to hide. Kind of further away, things like that. You know what I mean? This cunt literally did the first thing he did was to fly away. And f- another sort of his residency, Putin's residency, was built there some time ago, and apparently he's built a house for Alina Kabayeva and children. Apparently his children, not really sure, and she apparently gets there via special railway line. Special railway line. Pretty sure it's gonna be like a train that's probably like armored and things like that, because they have trains like that. And this is exactly what this is exactly the news that I kind of wanted to show as well. That right before the start of the war, Putin started to use basically armored train. this is just insane, but this is true. Like, this is the reality. And again, I'm gonna link these articles. I know that these particular articles are in Russian, but it's pretty easy to translate it. So yeah, there's that. There's this news. Pretty fucking interesting. All right. Now then, from sort of. Thank you for following, by the way. Um, so, now from the good news to the terrible news, because Russia is continuing to commit absolutely heinous crimes. And the heinous crimes is Iskander missile destroys pizzeria in the center of Kramatorsk. 11 people killed, more than 50 injured. That happened on 28th. And that happened, I think, exactly a year after Russia, that is, already committed a heinous fucking terrorist crime and destroyed a shopping mall in Kramatorsk and killed God knows how many people. Literally a 1 year anniversary, right? And this is what they've done. Another war crime. Part of a hotel and a restaurant in the center of the city, totally destroyed. Yeah. And of course, like I said, when Russia speaks, Russia lies. Because this piece of shit, who should be pieces of shit like that, who actually who actually spokespeople, press secretary, wherever, Peskov, right, said that Russian troops do not strike civilian infrastructure. Strikes are carried on facilities that are somehow connected to military infrastructure. Lies, absolutely provable lies. And I these people should even get probably like even fucking longer sentences that other pieces of garbage, because they're actually going there and knowingly lie. Not that other lie don't know, whatever. But yeah, another act of terrorism. Um, Nothing new really. We know that Russia is exactly a fucking piece of shit like that. But yeah, it is what it is. This definitely looks like a military facility, right? A fucking restaurant. All right, let's round it up with some news from Belarus. Belarus sentences human rights activist Nastya Loika 7 years in prison. Seven years in prison. Because she authored a report called Prosecution of Anarchists, Anti-Fascists, Leftists and Social Activists in Belarus from 17 to 18, which provided critical assessments of the Belarusian police. And haven't found her guilty of inciting hatred. Apparently that is a crime that you can be sentenced for 7 years. That's one thing, right? That's one thing. Since we are here on the despicable news, I just want to show you, by the way, how much the dictatorship wants to control the narrative and the news. This is the outlet that's been previously it was called Tutbay, now it's called Zerkalo. Now they've been exiled out of the country. Look what happens when you use a link from their Twitter account. It's not gonna open. They have to change basically all the time their names and the links that they link, because there are pieces of shit in the Belarusian like infrastructure somewhere, engineers wherever, working to block on a national level all the time the links, any new link to this outlet called Zerkalo. So a political prisoner was, I'm pretty sure, was killed, but it's not how they fucking spin it. While in custody, while being sentenced. So Witold Tashurok died in a penal colony in basically in May, right? What's interesting, like this is in and of itself absolutely despicable, right? He was an activist, and he was captured in September 2020, so right when the protests were happening in Belarus, and then he was sentenced to 5 years of penal colony for participating in protest actions, in protests, right? 5 years. So the lady just got 7 years. The guy got 5 years. We're just starting right now. I'm just gonna show you even more atrocious stuff. And he died in this colony, in the penal colony. And what happened to Natalia Dobrodevits, who was working in that colony, and she was basically the head of a medical wing, basically the person who's responsible for treating any sort of, or at least like overseeing the doctors who are supposed to keep those who are in custody alive and well, like in civilized countries, right? There was basically published like a phone call in 2021 that apparently 2021, how does that happen? Oh yeah, basically she was admitting that something absolutely some absolute foolishness have occurred, and the situation will be my sort of undoing if I'm gonna be here. Please transfer us, me and my husband, away from here, away sort of from this political prisoner, and because and I'm very hopeful that it's gonna be resolved smoothly. So official version is that he died because of the heart stoppage. However, as we know, political prisoners do not get really great care in those facilities, and in fact they get beaten up, they got humiliated, they got most of their rights, even those who that's supposed to be there, stripped away. It's basically, yeah, if you're a political prisoner in Belarus or in Russia, you are fucked. If you don't believe it, read the news what's happening to Navalny in Russia, and this is even worse in Belarus. So I have no doubt that they've killed this guy in one way or another, either by denying some sort of treatment or by treating him really, really poorly, or again subjecting him to torture and things like that. I have zero fucking what am I what am I searching? I have zero reasons to believe in something else, basically. Yeah, she was, which is very interesting, she was a major mayor. What is this a title also in the army, mayor? I mean, in Western armies. Basically, yeah. So when she was working in that facility where the political prisoner has died, she was mayor. What is? I would like to know the ranks. Is it major? Okay, it is a military rank. Okay, all right. So I'm not going crazy. So yeah, it is next lower rank, like captain, then you are a mayor, and then lieutenant colonel. So she was a mayor, major, mayor, whatever. And then she became a lieutenant colonel, just like that. She was transferred, and then she got a raise. So under her custody, political prisoner has died, she got transferred, and she got a raise. This is a Belarus for you. This is the brutal, despicable regime that people are living under, and that's why people do not want to create any fuss, create any movements, create anything that can shine more light than necessary on them. Because if they get into the system, if the government gets them, this is what happens. One person dies and another gets a raise for that. That's Belarus, that's Russia, that's, I'm pretty sure, regimes like Iran, North Korea, and China, and so on and so on and so forth. Just so you know. And while we are here, 240 years of imprisonment for everyone. The case of, it's called ex-restaurator, Vadim Prokopiev. 3 of them actually outside of the country, Prokopiev, Chimakin, and Khamitsevich. 18 people, right? What is the thing, like why people get jail time of 20 years, 16 years, 14 years, 11 years, 12, 9, and that's what's called like what is it called, like a intense regime, something like that. Basically, not a regular colony, but like intense for the criminals that are like super dangerous. Why? because presumably, because it didn't happen, but presumably, these people, or at least like some, maybe like couple of them, actually threw like Molotov cocktails into like house or prison or some piece of shit, whatever. But presumably these people were trying to attempt a coup, again in Belarus only this time, right? They are presumably like a terrorist organization or terrorist like a cell, and these people, right? Look at this. Some old guys, young ladies, like a mother, 11 years, 19 years, 20 years, 9 years, like I'm saying. These are the people, because these are the faces of the people who usually create coup and attempts to like overthrow regimes, right? I'll leave this link because it says sort of what exactly sort of there, and which is very very interesting, right? There is this I don't remember when it was introduced, this section into a criminal code. It's called preparation for an act of terrorism. There are act of terrorism. There is like attempt, yeah, but there is also, again, like even preparation or arrangements. So basically, by this logic, if you with your friends in a group, in like a whatever, like a Telegram group or like a fucking Facebook group, discuss that it would be fucking amazing to actually overthrow this regime, that's already arrangement or preparation for an act of terrorism, because in Belarus, trying to overthrow a regime, it's an act of terrorism. And I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this, I was doing a video about it a long time ago, but I'm pretty sure for now, in a changed version of criminal code since like I think 2021 or something like that, that for acts of terrorism, or well, maybe for like attempting, or for arrangement maybe not, but for acts of terrorism, I'm pretty sure there is even a sentence of death penalty, because this is the country where I am unfortunately still living. There is a death penalty still, and this death penalty have been used. This measure was used not that even long time ago. So yeah, and you can see that like obviously like you can't read Russian maybe, but again, arrangement or preparations for act of terrorism. One person, another, you know? So like, doesn't matter what they've done, but like if you can put this here and already put them away for like 10 years, that's the fucking country for you. That's the goddamn fucking country for you. That's what I'm saying. Like people don't want to do anything that brings basically even a little bit of an attention to themselves. Oh yeah, apparently they tried to set on fire house of like a deputy, I guess. Okay. All right. For that, this is apparently a terrorism, not like attempt on murder or something like that, right? Like a terrorism. By the way, nobody died. I think they said like a cat got like a burned. Yeah, nobody was harmed whatsoever, besides the cat that had a burned nose, and that's and the KGB, because of course this fucking country literally has KGB. Started the criminal case about act of terrorism, Nobody was injured. Nobody died. A cat had burned nose. People got listen. Let me just do it one more time, okay? People collectively got 240 years of jail sentences, right? People got 20 years, 16 years, 14 years, 11, 10, 3.5 to someone, then 20, 11, 11. Look at these people, first of all, okay? Look at these people. Young guys, young girls. Do these people look like terrorists to you? Do they really look like terrorists to you? Because to me, they absolutely do not, right? Look at this. These are the faces of terrorists, right? Young girls, mother, couple older guys. These are terrorists, right? Why are they getting this fucking jail time? Because they attempted to set on fire a house of a deputy, Oleg Gaidukevich. Nobody got injured. Nobody died. Only a cat had a burned nose. I will say to you once again, nobody died, nobody got injured, a cat got a burned nose. KGB started a criminal case, not about attempt on murder, attempt on like harm or anything like that, about act of terrorism, for fuck's sake, for which the highest, I'm pretty sure, punishment is the fucking death sentence. If not, it's like 20 plus years in jail time. People got 10, 20, whatever years. Nobody got harmed. Nobody died. Cat got a burned nose. This is a fucking Belarus. This is a fucking Belarus for you. By the way, literally called KGB. KGB. Exactly and as it was in USSR. They don't even change names. They don't care. These pieces of shit. I will leave these two articles if you want to read it yourself. And again, it's easy to translate it. Google Translate nowadays is pretty well, doing pretty well. So yeah. Okay, let me finish on the last news. And last news is about International Labor Organization. Basically, the International Labor Organization condemns Belarus's violation of union rights. Why is it? What's going on here? It is because, and this is I think the second time that International Labor Organization adopted a resolution under Article 33 of its constitution challenging Belarus's continuing disregard for workers' rights and the arrest of countless trade unionists. Why does it matter? What is the context of it all? The thing is, in 2020, people started to realize that union workers, which are factory workers in many cases, started to realize that they might have some power, and they started to organize protests between like the unionized sort of workers at the factories. And why does it matter? Because Belarus is highly sort of highly kind of monopolized country, if you want to say. Like there are very many, not very many, there are many sort of big centralized governmentally owned big factories who employ a lot of people, and there are unions there. They're absolutely kind of a joke of unions, really. However, it is workers, it is their right to unionize, it is their right to actually do protests and sort of, withhold their labor. They're not slaves, they're not imprisoned, and so they have the right. And so people started to actually the leaders, I would say, right, like of the opposition movement at that time, started to tell people, hey, let's just not work tomorrow, let's just protest. They can't do anything. And unfortunately, because there's been about probably at this point 100 years of basically making sure that people do not and cannot kind of organize together, unfortunately didn't last that long. But what happened basically after that is that those union leaders have been jailed and then sentenced up to 15 years in prison. More than 40 unionists have been sentenced up to 15 years of imprisonment. And again, that was in 2020 when the protests were happening, when the elections were completely stolen from the people because people had enough of this fucking mustache dictator, fucking cockroach cunt. And so that's the news, right? I'm gonna put once again links for all of that. What is happening in official Belarusian sort of media? ILO's stance towards Belarus slammed as extremely biased. That's official. Belta is like a propagandist garbage. This is basically like a governmental spokesperson fucking shit. Right? Those people who call themselves free trade unions in Belarus and who are supposed to protect workers demand sanctions against workers of their own country and call for harm and damage. This is nothing but a betrayal of people's interests. Blah blah blah. I still don't understand how Belarus and Russia are still like in those organizations, because it's like it's insane. But I didn't start it for nothing, right? Like this is actually sort of a great article by sort of the government body of the International Labour Organization. This is just like for people if they want to sort of take a deep dive in what is actually happening sort of in the country. I mean, obviously, like nobody gives a fuck about Belarus when you have like Russia, but it's really interesting that this the governing sort of body actually documented all these cases, what happened, to whom, for what, and they actually put it all here in this document in English language, and it's pretty remarkable actually. I'm very surprised that I'm very surprised that this organization actually cared about the workers in Belarus, and actually again sort of wrote down basically all of what they've done and what Belarusian sort of state claims, and why it matters is that this organization will be basically they can't really force anyone. They will recommend. Yeah, they will recommend. Sort of, the committee urges the government of Belarus to take necessary measures to ensure that no person is detained. Blah blah blah. This whole shit doesn't really matter because Belarus is a total dictatorship that will never listen to any of that until the regime actually falls. But what this committee actually recommends is for other countries to implement more sanctions and stop sort of trading with Belarus until those issues will be resolved, which is exactly one measure that can actually harm, at least to some extent, this regime. Because even though right now, obviously after the invasion, after the country of Belarus is basically complacent in the invasion of Ukraine, most countries kind of at least try to mostly stop trading, but now there might be even more sanctions, which is, even though I'm living here and I'm going to be facing all the sanctions and all the hardships that might come with it, I'm all for it 100%, because if even something hurts this regime, this is great. This is a victory. But what I wanted to say and I wanted to actually show you is that if you search the same sort of thing, International Labour Organization, Международная организация труда, МОD, a resolution about Belarus, right? But if you type it in Russian language, first link, Zerkalo.io, not available. Few of them actually are available, which I don't even know how. But then, so again, this is first one, link for an independent resource, not available. Second one, it did open at some point, I remember, but apparently doesn't open. Belta, this is official sort of propagandist garbage. It will open, but it's gonna be propaganda. Okay. Well, Reformation apparently did open, but I don't know whose resource is this, but I'm just saying, right? Like first link on actual real information does not work, and the third link for the stupid for the fucking stupid shit didn't work. And look at the spin. Look at the spin. 162 delegates did not support resolution of mod for Belarus. Do you understand what's happening? So the resolution was have been passed, right? And it's been passed by I think like 300 to something. Yeah, 300 to 54 votes. 300 voted for this resolution, 54 voted no, but 100 something didn't vote at all. And so this is what the propaganda does. So they summarized those who voted against and those who did not vote. And instead of saying that labor organization passed the resolution, they said that 162 delegates did not vote for this resolution. Do you see? Do you see what they're doing? So if somebody searches again about this resolution, somehow they've heard about it. First link to the real resource will be blocked. Second one will be just quick, like, oh yeah, they did it. And third one will be from the Belarusian piece of shit propagandist resource that didn't say that they passed it, that says that 162 voted no. Imagine that. And then yeah, I am a little bit sort of I'm a little bit surprised that like some of these resources are still sort of available, which are kind of even like Belarusian State Technological University sort of somehow put this link here, and not the link, but put this article here, and it's kind of available, which is not all the time what happens. But then if you go sort of lower down, like some of them will be blocked 100%. Oh no, listen, Euradio is almost always blocked. I'm actually a little bit surprised. I guess something happened with their blocking fucking shit. Because usually like, Matolka will be blocked. No? Listen, I don't know. I guess it's maybe like this. Maybe it's Brave browser. Maybe it's doing something. Because usually these resources like Matolka, Euradio, they are usually Belstat.eu. Oh, see, this one is blocked. Usually, even this one will be blocked. Matolka and Euradio. Sputnik, that's a Russian propagandist piece of shit. If you see some news there, don't even bother. And then Charter usually is blocked as well. Again, I feel like Brave browser is doing something today, which is nice. That at least something is getting through. But again, like ONT, this is the first national television, propaganda garbage, propaganda gov-by, propaganda garbage, SB, same shit, propaganda garbage. Is it? Or no, Belarus сегодня. Yeah, of course. International Committee, whatever, passed today anti-Belarusian resolutions. You can already sort of see what the spin they're putting on it. So yeah, anyway, I just wanted to show that actually most of the time like the news is blocked if it's like real news. But actually today, yeah, seemingly at least some of them are working, which is better than usual. I'll be honest. Anyway, so yeah, again, I'll put a couple links if you care about it. I don't think anyone will care, but yeah. And while all of this happens, Latvia will stop issuing any visas to Russians. Even apparently, even those that are kind of humanitarian visas. Apparently, even that is a no-go. I don't know how it's even possible, because I feel like they should follow like a European law, and I'm pretty sure like European law should forbid measures like that, like not issuing humanitarian visas. But that's just besides the point. Yeah, it's just interesting how the Baltic states don't really understand. They see one sort of face sort of the medal, and they completely sort of disregard the other one. That there are literally jail times, and I obviously gave you examples about Belarus, but it's the same in Russia. It's absolutely the same in Russia. So anyway, whatever. I think one last thing maybe I should talk about is actually some good news. Yeah, I guess it's kind of good thing to finish on something good. Parliamentary Assembly has hailed the resilience, courage, and determination of Belarusians who have been forced into exile by the repressions of the Lukashenko regime, and urged states hosting them to take legal and practical steps to welcome them. The Belarusian people are not the same as the Lukashenko regime. This is very good statement, and should not be treated in a discriminatory fashion because of the regime's participation in the war against Ukraine. This is a really, really great sort of resolution. I'm really happy that it was voted 87 in favor, nothing against, no one against, and 3 abstention, whatever. And basically what it the assembly made a series of practical recommendations to make legal entry and stay outside Belarus and travel in the EU easier for exiles and their families, as well as steps to keep them safe from reprisals, able to access their bank accounts and run businesses. This is exactly sort of what I want for all the people who value freedom and who are afraid of their lives and who have to kind of basically run away essentially out of their countries. And it is also should be about Russians as well. Like, it shouldn't be just about Belarusians, because yes, Russia started the war, and obviously it's a totally different sort of thing rather than being like a participant or like a sort whatever, right? But many Russians don't support this at all, and like Latvia just simply denies them even like entry visas wherever. And this is like why it's important for Latvia, Lithuania, like Finland, all those countries, because these are the countries that are bordering either Russia or Belarus, and obviously with the state of aviation that's basically non-existent, and you can't use like aviation basically to escape Belarus or Russia into decent countries. It's gonna be via like a land border, and so one would really hope that those countries that are bordering Belarus and Russia would at least like allow people to entry, allow to seek like refuge if they need it. States and parliaments should support the democratic forces in exile, as well as civil society and lawyers and lawyers, and encourage Belarusian education and culture in a number of ways. The parliamentary added. And Tikhanovskaya, which is a president in exile, thank you for distinguishing between the people and the regime. This is a visionary report, and I urge you to vote for it, not only because Belarusians are suffering and deserve your help, but because by doing so, you will be making Europe safer. This is, like I'm saying, I really wanted, really wanted this to happen, but like I'm saying, this should be applied for normal Russians as well. They applauded Lithuania's and Poland's effort to find legal and practical solutions to make Belarusians in exile more welcome. Nothing that more can be done, and noting that more can be done, and calling for out-of-the-box solutions. So thanks to Passe for this. This is a really good news, and hopefully more good news to come. Give Ukraine all the weapons, please. Did they ask for, so they can fucking end this war and the fucking Putin regime, and with that, and the fucking Lukashenko's regime as well. All right, it's been a long one, but thank you for listening and watching. I'm gonna be posting this long video, and then I will cut down the short clips, and I will be posting the short clips as well. Follow on YouTube, Critical Discussions, on TikTok as well, Critical Discussions. I'm going to be uploading way more content on TikTok as well, shorter clips obviously. And share the videos. I would greatly appreciate it, because the channel is small, but I think the information is pretty valuable, especially for those who don't know Russian language, cannot use and learn and read certain news in Russian language. I would highly appreciate if we can grow this channel a little bit bigger, well, substantially bigger, preferably. All right, till the next one, take care of yourselves, and subscribe, like, follow, all the usual stuff. Critical Discussions. Bye bye.